Welcome back to Thriving by Nature. I am glad you're here today. And honestly, I think that this episode might become one of those that you find at exactly the right moment, because I want to talk about something I just lived, not something that I have read in a book, not something a client has brought to me, but something I just walked through in my own body, in my own life. And over the past several weeks, I think if you're the kind of person who shows up fully, who loves deeply, who gives generously, and sometimes even forgets to leave something for yourself, then this is definitely one for you. So today, I want to talk about physical self-care, especially what happens to our bodies when we overextend ourselves for too long. And we're going to look at the science. We're going to sit with the story, and we're going to walk away with something real, something practical, and something you can actually use. So let's just get into it. So here we go. A few weeks ago, I felt like I was living like several seasons of life all at one time. I had my son getting married. And if you are a mom, you already know that a child getting married is just not attending the ceremony. It is 1,000 tiny acts of love leading up to that day. And for me, it looked like making a wedding cake, doing all the floral arrangements, gathering and coordinating all the decorations and details, renting supplies, hosting a bridal shower and a bachelorette party and having 9 extra guests of them at my home. Some of these people flew in, and my home became a gathering place. And I poured every bit of myself into making this just memorable for my son and for his amazing now wife. And you know what? The wedding was perfect. It was everything it was supposed to be. And my son, he was radiant. The bride was radiant. This was one of those days where you just feel full. But the season did not end there. We only had one day to breathe. Just one day. And I was doing laundry. I was washing tablecloths, trying to put the house back together. And right before we had to load up the car and drive like a state or two over for the wedding reception, the second wedding reception, so that we could celebrate with the other side of the family. And that drive was like 10 to 12 hours each way. And we showed up, we celebrated, we loved on people, and then we turned around and we came right back home. I had a couple more days to recoup before stepping into my role as one of the featured expert on the Life on Fire experiences, and I showed up. I brought my best. I was present, I was engaging, and I was fully in it. But here's the thing, on top of it all, there's more. It was also the end of dance competition season, and I was still a dance coach. I still had classes to teach. I was still a fitness instructor, and I had classes to lead. I was still a mom to kids, and I was still running my business. My body had been quietly asking me to slow down for weeks, and I just kept saying, just a little bit longer, just a little bit longer, just this one more thing. And then my body stopped asking me, and it made the decision for me. And I got sick. My immune system, which had been quietly holding everything together, finally waved the little white flag, and I could feel it. Not just in my nose and my throat, but really deep in my bones, in the way getting off of the couch felt like a project. Your energy is just sucked away. And I could not think as clearly. And my emotions were way closer to the surface than usual. And, here's the honest truth. I did not slow down right away because there was still the list. there were still people depending on me, and there were still things I needed to do. But eventually I had to make a choice. I had to call people, have them take over my fitness class. I had to step back from some of the dance practices. And realistically, I had to say no to things I would have normally said yes to without hesitation. And I had to be still. And that moment, that uncomfortable, humbling, necessary moment, is exactly what I want to talk to you about today. So let's talk about what was actually happening in my body, because this is not just a story about being tired. This is real biology underneath it. So when we go through periods of sustained stress, the kind that comes from weeks of giving everything without adequate rest, our bodies produce a hormone called cortisol. And cortisol is actually not the villain. It is actually incredibly useful in short bursts. It helps us to focus, responds to challenges, and it's the hormone that like gets things done. It's actually designed to help us handle a predator when, like, if we're in crisis or being chased. But the problem is that cortisol was never designed to just keep running in this loop. And there was a research that was published in the Journal of Psychosomatic Medicine. And they actually found that chronic stress and elevated cortisol directly suppresses your immune system. It reduces the production of lymphocytes, and those are the white blood cells that help fight off illness. So, in other words, the longer you stay in overdrive, the less white blood cells you have in your body to fight off the diseases and the bad germs that we come in contact every day. And so the more your body quietly dismantles all of its own defenses. This is crazy because this is not a metaphor. This is actually psychology and physiology. It's more physiology than psychology. But there's also another research that I was reading, because when things happen to me, I'm like, okay, what is happening? But this was from Carnegie Mellon University. And it actually showed that people who had experienced prolonged periods of high stress, they were significantly more likely to develop a cold when exposed to a virus than those who had not. And the connection between stress and immune function is that direct and that measurable. I was shocked when I read that, because that is exactly what happened to me. And it goes beyond the immunity. Chronic overextension affects your sleep quality, hormone regulation, gut health, and even cognitive function. There is a reason when we are depleted that we cannot think as clearly, why decisions feel harder, why we get more emotionally reactive. These are not character flaws. These are symptoms of a body that has been operating in survival mode for a little bit too long. And I can tell you that my body found a way to be heard. And maybe yours has too. Because I want to give you an image to carry with you in this. Imagine a well. It is beautiful. It is generously full. And people come to it all the time because it always has water and never runs dry. At least that is what everybody assumes. But there is something that nobody sees. Underneath that surface, the well is fed by a slow underground spring. And that spring needs time. It needs rain to soak down through the soil. It needs a quiet season where the water table can rise back up. It cannot simply produce on demand. And when we draw from that well faster than we can refill it, it does not announce itself. It does not put up a sign that the water is getting low. It just keeps giving until one day a bucket will come up empty. We are the well. And your physical self-care is that underground spring. the nourishing sleep that we need, the movement that restores rather than depletes, the food that fuels us, the stillness, the boundaries that say, not right now. Those are important. Your whole heart wants to say yes all the time. But we need to make sure that we are creating those boundaries, because these are not luxuries. These are the things that will keep our water flowing. Here's something that Marie Montessori, well, I should just say it like this. Here's something that Montessori educators understand very deeply, because it is baked into how children learn and develop. That the environment must be prepared. You cannot expect growth to happen in a space that has been stripped of everything that it needs. You have to tend to all of the conditions of your environment first, and your body is your environment. And you, more than anyone, are responsible for tending to it. So things that I really want to talk about, and I want you to walk away with, and here are your tools. Number 1, listen early. Your body has been giving you signals long before it shuts down. Fatigue that does not go away with sleep. Tension in your shoulders or in your jaw, a short fuse you keep apologizing over and over for, waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning with your mind spinning. These are not coincidences. These are actually messages. And the goal to hear them before they have to shout out should be everybody's goal. So we need to start practicing what I call a body check-in. And once a day in the morning, or even right before bed, you need to just pause and ask yourself, what does my body feel like right now? Not what is on my list, not how productive was I? Just what is the physical experience of being me right now? You'll be surprised with what you start to notice, because here's number 2. Recovery is not optional. It is part of the work. So after you do your body audit, which is number 1, we have to start thinking about what we're feeling and what do we do. We have this cultural story that says that rest is earned when you finish everything, or I'll rest when I'm dead. I'll sleep when I'm dead. But actually, in Montessori philosophy, and honestly, in a lot of studies of human performance, we know that a recovery period is not separate from growth. The recovery is actually where growth happens. So you do not get stronger during a workout. You get stronger during the rest that follows that workout. Your muscles build in recovery. Your nervous system resets in stillness, and your immune system strengthens when you sleep. Rest is not the reward for hard work. Rest is the strategy that actually makes the hard work sustainable. So when I finally gave myself permission to step back and not show up to every single dance practice, to let go of some of those classes, that's when all of my healing began. It wasn't because I gave up. It was because I stopped fighting my own biology. So number 3, boundaries are an act of self-respect, and they protect everyone around you. So I know how it feels like to look at your list and feel like every item on that list is essential. I know how it feels like to believe that if you don't show up, something is going to fall apart. I have lived that story so many times. But here is what I've learned. When I am depleted, I do not show up as my best self for any of it. I show up smaller, reactive, a less present version of myself. And that is not fair to anyone or the people I love or the work that I even care about. Saying no to one thing that you can say, so that you can say yes fully is so much more important. It's not selfish. It is wisdom. It is leadership. It is the most loving thing that you can do for yourself and for everybody that depends on you. So just to go back on the 3 things that you need to do is listen early to your body. Remember that recovery is not optional and that is part of the work. And number 3 is your boundaries, because those are the things that protect you and everyone around you. So in closing this podcast, I want to close with something that I've actually been sitting on. In these days of finally resting, I have cleared enough space to just be still. And I noticed something. The world kept going. The people that I knew were okay. The businesses did not fall apart. And the things I let go of were either handled by somebody else or turned out to be less urgent than I convinced myself that they actually were. And I felt something that I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt myself again. Not the version of myself that was running on like caffeine and pure sheer will, but the version of me that was rested, present, and grateful. And that is what physical self-care actually protects. It's not just your energy, it is your sense of self. And I think that that is worth protecting fiercely. So if this episode resonated with you, and if you are in a season of running on empty or can feel yourself getting close to that edge, I invite you to take one small step today. Come over to thrivingbynature.com, and there you can book a free leadership clarity call with me. We'll spend some time together and I will look to see where you're at. What is costing you the most? And what is one shift that might change everything? This is a real conversation. It's not a sales pitch. It's just 2 people sitting down talking about what it means to thrive and not survive. You can also find me on Instagram at thriving_by_nature_coaching. And I share honest, practical content on 5 domains of self-care every single week. So if this episode spoke something to you, would you share this or send it to a friend or a colleague or a sister or someone who might be running a little bit too fast for them? Because sometimes the most loving thing that we can do is hand somebody a mirror. I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for doing the work of growing. And you're worthy of taking care of. And I mean all the way down, every aspect of you. I will see you in the next episode.